You're looking at a live view of the SpaceX launch site at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. You can see the Falcon 9 rocket with the Dragon CRS-2 spacecraft sitting on top, awaiting launch in just under 40 minutes from now. Welcome and thanks for joining us. I'm Kiko Donchev, a spacecraft engineer here at SpaceX. We're webcasting you live from SpaceX headquarters in beautiful Hawthorne, California, where we design and build the Falcon 9 rocket and Dragon spacecraft. Today, we're located high above our composites manufacturing room, right near SpaceX Mission Control. This launch will be the 5th flight of the Falcon 9 rocket and the 2nd Dragon resupply mission for NASA. Now, just over 4 months ago, in October 2012, our Dragon spacecraft performed its 2nd visit to the space station and the first ever commercial cargo delivery. Now, today's launch will deliver more cargo and more science experiments, and in addition, we're planning to stay in orbit for as long as 25 days to support these experiments. At the end of the mission, Dragon will return cargo and experiments to Earth, splashing down in the Pacific Ocean just off the coast of Southern California. Now, I'm the newcomer to the Webcast program, so let me introduce my two co-hosts. First, we have John Innsbrucker, Product Director for our Falcon 9 Launch Vehicle program.
Good morning, Kiko, and welcome to the Webcast team. As you mentioned, today will be the 5th Falcon 9 launch for SpaceX. It's been an exciting 7+ years since we started the Falcon 9 program, and I've had the opportunity to be part of it for the 6.5 years I've worked at SpaceX. Today's launch is from our Cape Canaveral launch pad. We're currently working to activate our new West Coast launch site at Vandenberg Air Force Base, about 3 hours north of us here in our factory. It's a place I know well, having worked at the very same launch pad some 30 years ago as a young captain in the Air Force. We'll show you some of the work going on at the new Vandenberg launch site a little bit later in the webcast. For today, as I've said before, launch is always the most exciting part of the job for the SpaceX team, and we'll hopefully see the payoff of all our hard work in just a little while.
But no guarantees.
You're correct, Kiko. Everything has to work right during the just over 9 minutes it'll take Falcon 9 to get Dragon into low Earth orbit. The entire SpaceX team has been checking and rechecking to make sure that everything is go for launch this morning.
Thanks, John. In just a few minutes, we'll have you tell us about the Falcon 9 on the launch pad in Florida right now, just 36 minutes away from launch. So also with us is another veteran webcast host, Jessica Jensen.
Hi, Kiko. Hi, everyone.
You've recently had a change of jobs here at SpaceX?
That's correct. After 6 years as manager of dynamic environments, analyzing and testing our vehicles for vibrations, I've joined the mission management team. Now, I work with NASA planning all of our future cargo resupply missions.
And you've been here since 2006?
Yes. I started SpaceX just after the first launch of Falcon 1, back when the company was a lot smaller than it was today. And in the past few years, I concentrated on Falcon 9. Now it's really great to be working with our NASA customer and our SpaceX Dragon teams, preparing for the upcoming missions going to the space station in the several coming months and years. Now, Kiko has also been doing some pretty cool Dragon stuff, so why don't you tell the viewers about that?
Okay. I've been at SpaceX for almost 3 years now, and I started by designing and testing the batteries that are flying today on both Falcon 9 and Dragon. Recently, I joined the team developing our crew-carrying version of Dragon, the goal of taking our first SpaceX astronauts to orbit in just a couple of years. Now, of course, we represent just 3 of the more than 3,000 team members here at SpaceX. We're working hard to support NASA and our many commercial customers around the world with the ultimate goal of making humans a multi-planet species.
It's true. So Kiko, what do you think about going to Mars?
I think I'd do that. Visiting Mars for a couple of years sounds like fun, and I think it'd be pretty awesome.
All right. Well, let's get back down to Earth. So, if all goes as planned, today's webcast is going to last roughly an hour. First, we'll be checking in on launch status with John. Then, we'll find out what we're carrying to and from the International Space Station. We'll also take a quick look at some of the really exciting activities happening at SpaceX. Finally, the most exciting part, which you're all here for today, is we're going to watch the vehicle cameras, the live video feed from liftoff all the way to orbit. So, on that note, John, give us our first launch update.
Sure, Jessica. As with previous flights, we're watching 4 major systems involved in this morning's launch. First, we have the Falcon 9 launch vehicle, which is ready and waiting on the pad in Florida. The crew rolled Falcon 9 with Dragon out of the hangar almost 24 hours ago. Last night, about 14 hours before launch, we finished loading what we call the late cargo into Dragon. This is NASA's last minute items that may be time sensitive going to the space station. We hooked up to the pad systems and raised the vehicle to vertical last night. We cleared the area around the vehicle this morning so that we could begin propellant loading of kerosene and liquid oxygen into the first and second stages of the Falcon 9. That started about 3 hours ago and finished up about 90 minutes later. The flight safety systems have completed their checks between the Air Force range safety folks and the SpaceX team and the rocket. Now currently we're topping off the liquid oxygen on the first and second stages. You can see a white plume of gaseous oxygen coming off of the rocket. The liquid oxygen continues to boil off slowly, and we replenish it during the countdown. We'll stop doing that in the last few minutes before liftoff when we pressurize the tanks for flight. We're also currently topping off the helium pressurization gas stored in bottles on the vehicle, squeezing the last little bits of helium into the bottle before we're ready for flight. So SpaceX Launch Control in Florida reports right now the vehicle is looking good for flight. They're working no major issues, just under 33 minutes before launch. Second, we have the Dragon spacecraft, which is operated from SpaceX's Mission Control Center right here in Hawthorne, California. You can see here on the webcast. The SpaceX flight crew team will monitor Dragon 24 hours a day while it is in space. Mission Control Center reports the Dragon is ready and it's waiting for terminal countdown at T-minus 10 minutes. They're working no major issues on Dragon. The last major activity that Dragon has is going to internal power at about T-minus 8 minutes. The third factor today is the range. Cape Canaveral Air Force Station supports us with flight safety, radar, and long-range cameras. They currently indicate they're ready to support the launch, what we call fully mission capable. They have the primary and the redundant systems ready to go to track us as we head into orbit and watch over the rocket. We've also done a collision avoidance analysis that shows there are no orbital hazards in the flight path of Falcon 9 and Dragon as we head to orbit. We take a look at the flight path to make sure that there aren't any spacecraft or debris in the way, and that could normally cause us to have to move the launch time. There's nothing in the way today. The runway is clear to space, so we're going to launch on time just a little bit after, 10 minutes after the hour. The range also monitors factor number 4, and that's the weather. Now the weather report from the weather folks continues to show a 20% probability of violation of the launch constraints for weather. Or being an optimist, I look at that as saying, that's an 80% probability of good weather this morning. And I'll take that in the launch business. Right now, the thing they're most looking at is the possibility of thick clouds over the vehicle near or at liftoff. Also, we're looking at the winds at ground level. It's kind of breezy. It's a little chilly at the Cape today. Temperature's not an issue, but the winds we're looking at. But currently, we are within constraints to be able to release Falcon 9 at T0 and let her fly. We're currently right now also looking at balloon data. The range releases balloons for us. We've been doing that during this morning. We're getting the last balloon data in as we're talking in the webcast. Currently, the data indicates from a controls and a guidance and loads capability that the winds are benign enough for us to fly. We're not going to be stressing the launch vehicle. So that's a good thing for us today, showing that the vehicle has got enough margin and ready to fly. So currently right now, we're just over 30 minutes from liftoff. And while we get joked about it, at SpaceX here, everything is nominal. One of our favorite words. So the Falcon 9's good, Dragon's good, the range is good, and the balloons and the weather data are also good. So with that, we're right where we want it. And with that, back to you, Kiko.
Thanks for the update, John. So today's flight is the second of a minimum of 12 launches we have for NASA's Commercial Resupply Services, or CRS program. Now NASA basically created this program to help develop new commercial space capabilities. Some have compared this to the early days of air travel, where the Postal Service hired private companies to begin providing airmail. Eventually, some of these carriers began transporting people, and this basically evolved into the modern commercial aviation system that spans the globe today. Now, like our previous missions to the space station, we need to launch at a specific time. Today that time is 10:10 Eastern Time, or just about 30 minutes from now. Now, if we miss today's liftoff time due to weather or any other reason, we can reset and try again tomorrow, about 20 minutes earlier than today.
Once again, we asked you, our viewers, to send us your questions for SpaceX. But this time, we requested them as videos, and wow, did we get some fantastic responses. Here is the first of our viewer video questions.
Hi SpaceX, my name is Cole. I live in Cumming, Georgia. I am 7 years old, and my question is, what would I have to do to work in the SpaceX program when I grow up? Thank you.
Thanks, Cole. That's a great question. Now, since you're already 7 years old, the first thing is just be curious about everything. Find out how stuff is made, how things work. Maybe you can get your hands on something that's broken, take it apart, try and fix it, put it back together. Another great thing is to learn about computers. One cool way is there's robot toys where you can actually take them and program to do things such as kick a ball. Another good thing is build model rockets. You can build a model rocket, launch it in your backyard or in a park. That's a really good way to learn about how rockets fly. And then as you get older, obviously get good grades and go to college. We would recommend you get a degree in engineering. You could pick aerospace, mechanical, computer, civil, any of those are great. But one of the biggest things that SpaceX looks for is hands-on experience. So we'd like to see you get involved with design teams at school, maybe a student satellite or a student race car project. Then once you're done with all that, give us a call. All right, and another very popular question is, what are we taking to and from the International Space Station? We have a cool video to show you about that. On our latest Dragon resupply mission in October, we carried a variety of equipment, experiments, and supplies, including real frozen ice cream for the astronauts, not that freeze-dried kind. Then, on return, we brought back a large amount of equipment and medical samples, as well as SpaceX's first living passenger, a live Johnson jumper spider named Nefertiti, who had spent 100 days living and hopping aboard the station as part of a student-developed experiment. Now, today's Dragon mission carries over 670 kilograms or 1,400 pounds of cargo in the pressurized section. One of these pieces of cargo is a robotic microlab developed by the young women in the San Diego Science Alliance. These are high school students flying their experiments to the International Space Station. How cool is that? Now, this mission is the first time we're using Dragon's spacious trunk section. We've loaded it with a 370 kilogram or 800 pound equipment module that is destined for the exterior of the station. A few days after our Dragon arrives and berths, astronauts Chris Hadfield of Canada and Kevin Ford and Tom Moshburn of the USA will operate the robotic arm to unload the cargo and anchor it to the station's exterior, where it will be ready for future use. Finally, at the end of the mission, about 25 days from now, if all goes as planned, we're going to be bringing over 1,000 kilograms or 2,200 pounds of supplies, equipment, and medical samples back to Earth. And who knows, maybe there'll be more astronaut animals coming home with us this time.
Very cool, Jessica. I actually had no idea we were bringing back live passengers on the last mission. Okay, so we have another viewer video question that asks about some of our upcoming developments.
Hi, my name is Jocelino. I'm from Porto, Portugal. Although the Dragon uses Falcon 9 as a two-stage to orbit launcher, did you consider making it a single-stage to orbit vehicle? And what are your thoughts on SSTO as a safer means of transport for astronauts?
Thank you, Jocelino, for your question. You mentioned safety. SpaceX designs and manufactures our vehicles to provide the most reliable access to space. Our design features show this focus in the Falcon 9. We use a high-pressure pneumatic stage separation system, not an explosive bolt, explosive nut system like some other launch vehicles. This allows us to test our systems before we launch them, unlike explosives, which you don't know if they're going to work until you actually call upon them in flight. On the Falcon 9, we also have what we call our hold before release launch system on the pad. When we light the 9 Merlin engines on the first stage later this morning, we'll hold down the vehicle, make sure we've got full thrust, all the systems are working, and then the launch mount will release the vehicle for flight. Kind of like on an airplane, where the pilot runs the throttles up at the end of the runway but keeps the foot on the brake, makes sure everything is good, then takes the foot off the brake, and you're cleared for launch and sail on down the runway. We also use 2 stages instead of 3 stages or 4 stages. That helps minimize the complexity, improves the reliability and safety of the vehicle. Now, as for single stage to orbit, or SSTO, that capability currently continues to exist only in literature or in the movies. But concepts like SSTO are reflected in our design. For example, most of the weight of the SpaceX launch vehicle is propellant, not the metal or composite structures. That results in a very efficient, or what we call mass fraction efficiency, for the first and second stages of the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. Now at SpaceX, we're focused on innovations that increase the reliability and frequency of access to space. In the factory behind us, we're manufacturing the strong, lightweight carbon composite parts for our Falcon 9 vehicles and our new Falcon Heavy rocket. We manufacture the engines, the tanks, the composite structures, even the avionics for much of the vehicle. Now the Falcon Heavy, which I mentioned, will provide the world's largest available lift capacity, up to 53 metric tons or 117,000 pounds to low Earth orbit. At our rocket test site in McGregor, Texas, we've been flying our Grasshopper vertical takeoff and landing vehicle. This vehicle has a Falcon 9 first stage tank, a single Merlin engine, and 4 sturdy landing legs, and it takes off and lands entirely under its own rocket power. This SpaceX funded program is intended to change the way we get into space by helping lead to the creation of a fully reusable launch system. We're conducting a series of test flights of increasing altitude and complexity. Our next Grasshopper test is coming up soon. Also in Texas, we've been testing the Super Draco rocket engines. You can see one firing here on the webcast. These will be essential when we start flying astronauts on Dragon. The Super Dracos provide a quick getaway in case of a launch vehicle failure. They can also be used for propulsive landing at the end of a successful mission. We designed Dragon from the start to enable the carrying of people. And with the addition of seats, suits, and life support, we're on track to fly our first crew of SpaceX astronauts in the year 2015. And finally, we're looking forward to activating our newest launch site at Vandenberg Air Force Base, about 3 hours north of Los Angeles. Like our Florida launch site for today's mission, the new site is also a former Titan IV launch pad. But we've upgraded it into a state-of-the-art site that'll be capable of launching both the Falcon 9 and the Falcon Heavy vehicles. And please note, for folks even including Cole, we are hiring talented and motivated people with a passion for space. So check out our careers button on our website.
Thanks, John. Definitely a lot of exciting activity going on here. All right, our next video viewer question relates to mission timing. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Mike, hailing from Ann Arbor, where all systems are go. Blue. How much time will it take Dragon to reach the space station?
Thanks for your question, Mike. The time needed to get a spacecraft to orbit is about 10 minutes for a typical rocket. But the time needed to get from Earth to the space station depends on where the rocket launches from and where the ISS happens to be when that launch occurs. Now in the US, launch sites are built in locations that let us fly rockets to different orbits. From Florida, we can launch towards the northeast, east, or southeast and not fly over land until we're in orbit. On today's mission, we have a unique launch opportunity, and that should get us to space station more quickly than before. As with all missions headed to the space station, today's liftoff is timed to happen just a few minutes after it passes near our Cape Canaveral launch site. That flyby will happen in just a few minutes at 10:03 a.m. Eastern Time. Because of the position of the orbit and our mission profile, we will be able to have Dragon berth at the space station in about 18 hours. That's a new US record. Compare that to the 62-hour flight profile used on our previous mission last October. Now, if we miss today's liftoff time due to weather or any other reason, we can reset and try again tomorrow, about 20 minutes earlier than today. By starting with the favorable orbital pass near the launch site, Dragon makes a series of high-energy thruster firings. In about 10 orbits, it catches up to the station, circling 330 kilometers or 200 miles above the Earth. Fast transits will be a great feature for carrying passengers to orbit. Who'd want to sit in a vehicle for 2 days when you could get there in just a few hours instead?
Exactly. Non-stop. It's the only way I fly. I'll take it.
It looks like we have a bit of time for one more viewer question.
I'm Alex from Livonia, Michigan, and I was wondering if the Falcon rockets were controlled by a system aboard Dragon or aboard Falcon itself.
Hi, Alex. So that's a good question. Let me talk about it. So the way it works is when Dragon is attached to Falcon 9, the Falcon 9 flight computer is what controls the vehicle. So you have the Falcon 9 flight computer controlling the vehicle from liftoff all the way into orbit. Then, when Dragon deploys, the Dragon flight computer takes over. At that point in time, the flight computer on Dragon uses accelerometer data and gyro data to figure out its position and its pointing, and uses its thruster firings to get it close to the space station. Then, when it gets close to the space station, the flight computer checks in things, does pointing, and we get very close to the Canadian robotic arm, at which point the astronauts come out, grab us, and pull us in.
As we mentioned earlier, this mission is our 5th launch of the Falcon 9 rocket, our 4th operational Dragon spacecraft, and our 3rd visit to the International Space Station.
However, all that history and experience by no means reduces the challenges we face. We believe that we have tested and prepared for everything possible.
That's right, Jessica. Getting to space is always difficult. Now we've held our final reviews, done our final checks, and the team is getting ready to launch Falcon 9 and fly Dragon.
And speaking of that, we have a shot, I believe, coming up of our SpaceX team gathering outside of the Mission Control Center here in Hawthorne. And one of the coolest things about this is almost all the people you see here, well, let me start back. SpaceX builds all of our engines. All right. SpaceX builds a lot of our engines, our tanks, our avionics, everything pretty much is built in-house. So almost all the people you see here have had their hands on the hardware that's about to fly into space today. So everyone gets really excited and comes and piles in, and we're really excited to launch today. All right, now let's look at a shot from Falcon 9 itself. So this camera is mounted on the 2nd stage, looking down from about 12 stories above the launch pad. From this camera, we're going to watch the 10-minute ride all the way to orbit.
Now just a comment about our video signal today. We receive our vehicle video from several ground stations during the flight as we head up the East Coast. It is possible that we will have video dropouts, but rest assured this is just the video system as we're switching from camera to camera and site to site. It should not be a cause for concern. However, we have been working one issue with the Newfoundland ground station. Right now it is capable of supporting the mission, but should it go down between now and launch, then we would not have the opportunity to get the video signal to see Dragon with the separation and the solar array deployment. We'll keep our fingers crossed that we can get that, but if we don't, then we'll try to listen for folks on the countdown net confirming that the arrays have come out and that things are proceeding nominally.
Thanks, John. So after today's launch, you can follow SpaceX.com and our social media pages for updates. And we now have an online SpaceX shop open where you can buy some cool items. Check it out at shop.spacex.com. All right, John, let's get to check back in at the Cape. How are conditions looking?
Well, Jessica, things are still looking fairly well. Let's talk about Falcon 9. Falcon 9, we are watching one potential concern on the vehicle. We monitor all the temperatures of our various avionics boxes, engines, things like that. What we're looking at right now is flight computer temperature is a little bit low. It's a little cold in the vehicle. It's cold also for Florida today. So we've been watching that temperature. If we were to violate the limit, then we'd have to decide whether to scrub for today or would that violation be acceptable, depending upon what the temperature is. So the team's been watching that this morning. We're trying to run warm gas into the compartment to help the flight computer stay warm. Other than that, on the Falcon 9, we continue to top off the liquid oxygen. We continue to pressurize the helium bottles on the vehicle. And we're not working any other issues on the rocket right now. On the Dragon spacecraft, things are fairly quiet for Dragon. The team has just done their own internal go, no go poll. That is complete. The Dragon team is go, ready to fly Dragon as it gets into orbit. We'll be flying Dragon, as I said, out of the Mission Control Center here at SpaceX. The range continues to be ready to support with the flight safety systems, the tracking systems, and the cameras. We're working no issues with the range right now, so they're green and ready to proceed with the launch. Finally, on the weather front, weather continues to be an 80% chance of good weather. things are still a little breezy and gusty at ground level. Outside of the Cape, we're worried about thick clouds, but we can still see some blue sky, so that's looking good also. We've also been doing the balloons. Currently, our team that's looking at balloon data reports that the conditions are good at the upper altitudes, so we're go all the way through T0 with the balloon data. Now coming up shortly, we're going to be listening to the launch conductor's poll at T-minus 13 minutes. So we'll be polling 14 people to make sure in the SpaceX Launch Control Center in Florida, just a few miles from the launch site, that everything is go. So we'll listen in to the launch conductor's poll coming up in just less than half a minute for the final go-ahead.
All right, unlike our most two recent launches, which were at night, today we should hopefully have clear visibility from launch all the way to orbit, and hopefully we'll get to see solar array deployment. So let's now check in with Kiko, who's over by Mission Control.
Thanks, Jessica. So we're broadcasting to you live from the new mezzanine level here in the middle of the factory. So this whole floor is actually built since the last time we launched. And as you can see over here, the employees are starting to gather, the whole team. There they are. All right. Awesome. And then right behind them, we can see the Dragon C1 spacecraft. This was actually launched in December 2010, did 2 orbits around the Earth, and then splashed down in the Pacific Ocean right off the coast of Southern California. So as you can tell, it's pretty fun down here, so I think I'm just going to hang out here and watch launch from this spot. Back to you, Jessica and John.
I would hang out over there for launch too. All right. Well, I believe at this point, or
Yep.
yeah. All right.
Actually, while Kiko was showing you some of the layout, we were listening also to the launch conductor's poll. That did occur. The team's been polled, and everything is looking good right now. So we're going to wait to enter terminal count at T-minus 10 minutes, and we'll let you listen to that.
VC, start the terminal count auto sequence, set to start at T-minus 10 minutes.
Copy. Terminal count launch is started.
If a hold is called from this point forward, the terminal count auto sequence will be aborted. Indicate an abort or hold condition by saying hold, hold, hold on the primary countdown net. In this event, the VC will immediately abort the auto sequence. The VC shall not abort the auto sequence after T-minus 10 seconds, and operators shall not call a hold after T-minus 30 seconds. If a hold is called, all operators proceed to the terminal count abort steps in section 10.59. Stand by to pick up the count at T-minus 10 minutes and counting on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. DC, verify the auto sequence is started.
Terminal count is verified.
RCO, confirm clock is counting.
Clock is counting.
GCVC, stand by on fire X.
Standing by.
Standing by.
RC, start the range video recorders.
Roger.
OSM, set launch enable to flight.
Switch to flight.
Pre-valves coming open. Aux bleeds coming open and chilling first stage engines.
Radiator ISOB is closed, nominal pressure increase.
Chilled water system is offline.
T minus 9 minutes. T minus 8 minutes.
Dragon internal auto sequence has started. Dragon batteries are on bus.
T minus 7 minutes.
Dragon is in internal power. All systems go.
First stage fuel bleed. Vehicles in self-line. T minus 6 minutes.
Solar ray charge task is active.
S2 TVC bleed started. T minus 5 minutes. GN2 loads closing out. Falcon 9 is switching to internal power.
We're on internal power on stage 1 and 2.
Vehicle release auto sequence has started. T-minus 4 minutes.
Stage 2 TVC motion started.
Ground T-tub system is setting up.
FTS is on internal power.
Stage 2 TVC motion looks good.
FTS is armed.
Lock float is closing out.
All fuel trim valves at flight position.
LD, verify go for launch.
All systems are go for launch.
Echo record trigger is high.
S2 heaters is closing out. Rock, verify range go.
Range green.
Helium load's closing out. Pre-valves coming open. Aux bleed's open for the final engine chill.
Good feedback on all pre-valves.
Flight computers entered auto idle.
T-minus 1 minute. Vehicles in startup.
Flight computers in control of the vehicle.
Dragon is in startup.
Helium checkout closing out. Tank press system setting up. T-minus 30 seconds.
All tanks at pressure.
T-minus 20. T-minus 15. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0. We have liftoff of the Falcon 9.
Dragon has sensed first stage acceleration.
Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
Starting pitch now. Starting gravity turn. First
Terminal
stage
count launch is
full power.
complete. Standing by.
Power systems nominal, and we have a good telemetry lock on stage 1 and 2.
First stage propellant utilization active. Vehicle is 6 kilometers in altitude, velocity of 241 meters per second, and downrange distance of 1 kilometer. Vehicle is supersonic. Vehicle has reached maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Second stage has started engine chill.
Vehicle remains on a nominal trajectory. Vehicle is 30 kilometers in altitude, velocity of 1 kilometer per second, and downrange distance of 23 kilometers.
Dragon power systems nominal.
Vehicle remains on a nominal trajectory. Vehicle is 51 kilometers in altitude, velocity of 1.8 kilometers per second, and downrange distance of 59 kilometers.
Approaching MECO 1. MECO 1.
Pass in MECO.
Flight computers in second stage.
Dragon has sensed MECO.
MECO 2, stage 1 shutdown.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition confirmed.
AOS wallops.
Nose cone separation.
All stations, MD on Mission A, please proceed to Procedure 7.101, Dragon on-orbit activation deployment. Standing by for Dragon separation and prop priming.
Second stage propulsion systems nominal.
Vehicle remains on a nominal trajectory. Vehicle is 148 kilometers in altitude, velocity of 3.2 kilometers per second, and downrange distance of 346 kilometers.
Second stage propellant utilization active.
Vehicle remains on a nominal trajectory. Vehicle is 182 kilometers in altitude, velocity of 4 kilometers per second, and downrange distance of 541 kilometers.
Second stage propulsion systems look good.
Power systems look nominal, and we have a good telemetry lock on stage 2.
Vehicle is 200 kilometers in altitude, velocity of 4.6 kilometers per second, and downrange distance of 767 kilometers. Vehicle remains on a nominal trajectory. Vehicle is 210 kilometers in altitude, velocity of 5.6 kilometers per second, and downrange distance of 1,080 kilometers. IMU and GPS look good. Vehicle is passing through the head-on gate.
Stage 2 propulsion systems continue to be nominal.
Vehicles and terminal guidance.
FTS is saved.
LOS Cape.
MVAC shutdown
Flight
confirmed.
computers in separation state.
Dragon has
Vehicle
sensed Seco.
Vehicle is orbital. Perigee 199 kilometers, apogee 323 kilometers, inclination 51.66 degrees.
Cameras pointing forward. Dragon set commanded.
All stations, MB Mission A, successful Dragon F9 SEP. Thank you for the ride, F9. All stations,
Prop
global.
Prop global.
All stations, prop software globals.
Assist to acknowledging prop global.
Noting that prop alarms are inhibited. Flight computers in post-prime state. Software global.
LOS Wallops. AOS Newfoundland.
Acknowledging software global. Flight computer in abort passive.
It appears that, although it achieved Earth orbit, Dragon is experiencing some type of problem right now. We'll have to learn about the nature of what happened. According to procedures, we expect a press conference to be held within a few hours from now. At that time, further information may be available. This will bring us to the conclusion of our live webcast for today. Please check our website, spacex.com, where we will be providing you with more information as it becomes available. Thank you for joining us today.